Okay, all right. Hi everyone, this is Iyad. I'm a coach in residence, also HR and behavioral scientist at Localized, and today is about the art of storytelling, how to master the art of storytelling, and especially in the context of job search. We all know that job search could be um uncertain, could be lonely, could be frustrating, could make you feel sometimes that you're going in circles and you're not able to achieve your goal, which is finding a job that pays better and it's more meaningful and all that. And there are a lot of tips out there about how to master job interviews and how to write resumes and CVs and how to write cover letters, what to do, what not to do. But the way we think about it localized that instead of thinking about all the tips and techniques out there that could be helpful in some situations and not helpful in other situations, the way we think about it is what would be a universal tip that would work for everyone, whether you are an early stage career candidate, or you have more years of experience under your belt, or you are in engineering, business, humanities, you are a native English speaker or not an English speaker. So think about it is that whether the situation is a directly related to you or not related to you, what are the things that you always can delegate to, right? So it's not just a situation that some tips work for and some tips do not work for, right? Uh, for example, I remember back in the day, 10 years ago, we used to advise students to wear a certain in a certain way, and these are the best practices and tips to wear a suit or a dress. This is how you should wear your shoes, and this is what the color of your socks, and this is the um, I don't know, the shirt, and this is how you talk. And we used to think about job interviews specifically and resumes and CVs as one template that everyone should follow. Well, in reality, today, for the most part, the world is way more diverse and way more complex, and we need a, a, a tip or advice that people, when they use it, there's 99% chance that this is going to happen. And what I just learned today uh, uh, on localized webinar is that during that time is that something really I can benefit from, whether I live in Africa or the Middle East or in the Americas, it doesn't matter. I have to follow something that would work for me. That said, I can still localize it. I can still contextualize it. I can still use it in a specific situation. So if you go back to the basics, go back to the exactly what people are doing when it comes to job interviews or when it comes to job search, it's basically they're communicating. It's a communication, a form of communication. And this form of communication has some rules. Yes, communication is the same, but not the same. Yes, the core of communication is the same. There's a sender, a receiver, a message, a medium. There, people are talking, some people are listening, whether through verbal, nonverbal, written, not written. All these things have different shapes and forms. But what is core? What is core when it comes to communication? What it co- what is core when it comes to written and verbal at the same time? So the way we think about it at Localize is there's a common denominator that would work for pretty much for everyone. And this is the question I would like you to ask and answer all the time, all the time. And this is probably the most important question is imagine if all the job search coaches in the world and all the career coaches and all the recruiters and all the people on YouTube and everywhere all agree on one thing. one thing, what would that be when it comes to job search? Especially when it comes to communicating and telling a story when it comes to job search. And pretty much everyone agrees that you should be doing one and two and three and four, but they disagree when it comes to five and six and seven and eight, right? There are things that are core. So that's what we've been spending years and years of experience on answer a question like this instead of just trying to answer a specific situation, right? That doesn't mean that there are situations where you need to adjust the core, but not change the core, okay? Core is the core, but there is more, right? So in the chat, if you can just imagine what would be the answer to this question. What are the things that everyone could potentially agree on when it comes to how you communicate during your job search or your job interview or on your resume? Okay? Think about it. Try to let these creative juices to flow, and let's start. So, do we have anybody here in the chat could answer? Let's see here. Hi. What is one what is what are the things that potentially, let's say potentially, okay? We live in a world where it's pretty much so hard to answer a question like this. Potentially could, would, or could agree to agree on, right? That these are the universal tips when it comes to job interviews or job search. Okay? Can you type in the chat? Let's see here. So we have attendees. We have many people here. All right. Yes, perfect. Awesome. I see people. Both add value to each other. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Let's think about the communication part. What is one thing when it comes to communication? Respect and formality. Talk more about yourself. Okay. I'm not sure about formality, but I think definitely about respect for sure. I like your thinking. Or maybe the word formality has a definition. Let's narrow down our question a little bit. What is when it comes to communicating during your like using your resume and CV, okay? What is one thing that pretty much everyone should have on their resume and CV? Or your communication style using your resume and CV? What is that? Of course, the winners of today's session, people who answer questions more correctly than others, will win one-on-one coaching session and an individualized resume feedback and interview if you want. So yeah, let's see who would be the most engaged. And I really like I used to like, I still like, but not as much, what Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. In Arabic, they say, أنا أفكر إذا أنا موجود. But in what I really like the last few years is about less about your thinking and cognitive learning and more about your social learning, which is said by John Seeley Brown, I engage, therefore I am. The more you're engaged, the more you learn. All right, so be precise and straight up to the point. I like that. Thank you, Brian. Now we're talking, okay? Perfect. Focus on what you offer to the company, the value you're adding, summary, bio, and achievements of resume. Surprisingly, Abid, this is not a universal thing. I would like to believe it's universal. I sometimes say it is in 2024, but maybe there are more core components of your resume. Forget about the section of your resume and think about the style. Okay? Not too much details. Yep. Or yep, perfect. Rula, clear language, no jargon. I love that. I love that. Clear language, yes. No jargon, yeah. It depends who you're talking to. If you are talking to someone who shares the same background, what you're saying might not be being perceived as might not be perceived as a jargon, but could be perceived as jargon to somebody else. So I would put like a small asterisk on the word jargon. Jargon means, terms and words that are unique to a specific function or industry or, you know, focus area. Okay, cool. So if you think about it, is I'm gonna ask it in a simple way. If I write a resume that's way too long, like really, really long, 4 pages, um, and again, we know the difference between a resume and a CV is resumes more like in Canada and the United States and some other countries are more like a achievements driven, very specific, uh, less narrative and more, bullets, straightforward bullets to the job. So these are the kind of resumes, and CVs in the United States and Canada are more academic and more research. So you can go long and long. But outside the United States, in the world, the word resume is not used as much. You still see them, but you have, especially if it's an American company, and the word CV is what people usually use as an alternative, using them interchangeably with the word resume. So when we talk about resumes, nobody's going to say write a very long, long resume so people cannot complete and read, right? You make the reader feels that's too much, too much. All right, another page, another one, like another one. And you have nobody's gonna say write something people cannot understand, like Rula, clear language. Write something that people can understand, not people cannot understand. So don't write smart to look smart. Write simple to look smart. Simplicity is intelligence. Nobody's gonna say write something that it's has a lot of mistakes, right? Which is surprisingly nobody mentioned, which should not be surprised because we live in the world of AI. People now assume that you have access to tools. Maybe you don't have an excuse anymore not to write with a clean language. All right. Also, when it comes to writing resumes and CVs and cover letters, any form of writing, pretty much when it comes to job search, you have to be very customized, which means when I write something to Iyad, who's the recruiter at this company, localized, let's say, I'm not going to write the same thing to Ahmed, who's the recruiter at another company. I'm going to write exactly what I think Ahmed and Iyad would see the value and benefit from interacting and connecting with me. So I want to write expressing myself. I'm still writing my own story, not writing somebody else's story. But in the context of what Ahmed is looking for or what Iyad is looking for. So the content is yours, the context is the recruiter. Okay? So if you combine all these tips in one framework so you can remember and use, actually drive action. I put the model in a 7C framework called the 7Cs. It starts with clear, which is easy to understand, clean, and a lot of people right now write, and I'm one of them. When I want to write something with my business partner or my team or in HR, behavioral science, anything, I say uh, fourth grade reading level or fifth grade reading level because most people, that's the level where people, especially in English, especially if English is not your first language, write in a way that people do not need extra cognitive power to understand. Okay, they don't need extra efforts to understand what you're saying. Say it in as simple as you can, so they can focus on the content, on the message, not on the words. Okay, people think if I use fancy words, that people, oh, this is actually good content. It's exactly the opposite, right? In simple terms, in simple words that people can understand, this reflects deep understanding of what you're talking about. Okay, especially if you're talking about yourself. Okay, a lot of people on resumes and CVs write cliches and write um, words that they saw on other resumes in LinkedIn, on cover letters. Say, if I copy this from somebody else's resume and cover letter, I will have higher chances. That's the mindset of getting an interview because that person got the interview. But we don't know what the situation of that person, right? We think it's just copying and pasting other people's successes that would give us higher likelihood. And this is potentially true, but not every time, everywhere, for everything. Copy what works, but contextually. Okay? So let's continue. Clear is easy to understand. Clean means no mistakes or obvious mistakes, right? Especially in the world of AI and generative AI. Today you have a lot of tools, access to tools. For most people have access to that. Use them for your own advantage, not to sound artificial. Okay? Use artificial intelligence to boost your intelligence, not to replace it. Customize, as we said, right in the context of the job description. Every time you read the job description, try to understand exactly what they want. Spice Girls' famous song. Uh, what do you really want? Really want is not what is written in the job description. This is the starting point, but try to read between the lines, the order of the requirements, the order of the duties and responsibilities. You try to understand if I'm trying to imagine I have this superpower to put myself in that person's shoes when they wrote the job description. What are they trying to solve using that job description? Okay, the problem. And customize your resume and cover letter and messages to that problem, especially when it comes to the job interview as well. Creative, which means be you. Just be yourself. People are becoming copycats, are becoming just another copy from other people. Just be you. Uniqueness is very unique these days. So, no matter how many people on social media is telling you to be like somebody else, resist this temptation of copying and focus and cultivate your your creativity by just being you. And if you stand out and from the crowd, that's exactly the point. You're not trying to be another resume. You're trying to be a unique story people can remember. People won't remember similarities. People will remember differences. Okay? So be unique, be distinct. Clear, clean, customized, creative, confident. Now, what does confident mean in the context of job search, in the context of resumes and interviews? Confident doesn't mean being arrogant, doesn't mean being like egocentric. That doesn't mean confident. Confident means when I talk about something, I talk as if it's 100% right. When I listen, as if I'm 100% wrong. But now you're talking. Now you're writing. So you write and talk as if you're 100% right. How does that look like in writing form? Well, let's say I worked at a company X as an intern, and most people, when they write about a job that was their first job or entry level job, like a waiter at a restaurant, a fast food restaurant, or I worked as a volunteer at this organization so I can learn and build my career and all that. People look at it as, yeah, okay, what did you do? Well, I didn't do anything. I just, printed documents. I assisted this manager. I filed. I did some data entry, but nothing as valuable as you might think. Well, this is probably the wrong way to think about it, if there's right or wrong. The right way to think about your story is think about how much value I brought to this organization, and you say it as 100% confident that what you did is actually impactful, and that's going to reflect positively when it comes to your resume and when it comes to your interviews. So highly recommend think about the work you're doing as a valuable input, valuable impact, right? Not something I don't if I didn't do it, nobody would have not noticed. That's gonna hurt you this way of thinking. So confidence, I did X, and the impact there's always impact Y, and there is also how Z, and this is how you write anything on your resume, right? I did X, impacted Y using Z, right? For example, a software engineer would write something like, what did you do? Well, I built this application. Great. Pretty much every single software engineer is going to say this. Or I use Java and JavaScript. Okay, perfect. Good for you. But how am I going to hire you if you're not telling me something I would use to build an impression, and then I would be your advocate in the process, especially as a recruiter? Well, you need people to listen to your story. People won't listen to your story if there's no emotional part, credibility part, and cognitive logic part, right? So you need to build that story very carefully and intentionally in one sentence. In one sentence. Look at this. I built this application. Great. I use Java. Awesome. I was part of the engineering team. Good for you. Look at this. I use JavaScript, React and Node.js to build user-centric, adaptive applications that helped 1,000 plus users a day achieve their financial goals, for example. Well, people say, oh, I know what you did. I know why you did it. I know how you did it. Okay. So that's what you need to do as a software engineer. Build a complete story and don't assume people know what you're doing. They would assume, but that's not going to help you, right? Don't rely on assumptions. Right. Clear, clean, customized, creative, confident, credible. Now, the word credible, you need to provide facts and figures and evidence of what you did. Now, so a lot of people don't necessarily do that. Um, and again, they delegate to the job title or to the name of the organization. They say, yeah, I worked as a software engineer. You know what software engineers do. Hire me if you think there's a fit. That's not my job to tell you evidence or give you evidence. I'm a product designer. I'm a product manager. I am an accountant. You know what accountants do, right? Hire me if you need an accountant. No, this is used to be the way when we needed more candidates than what we can find. But now you have hundreds, if not thousands, of applications every single day to every single job for every single job. So that doesn't work anymore. You need to stand out. And standing out today is harder and harder. Yes, easier using some tools, but harder because of the quantity gain. So how do you stand out? Back to the basics. Always be communicating. The ABCs. How to communicate? Well, I'm telling you the seven C's here. So clear, clean, customized, creative, confident, credible, and we have people mention that concise. Can't tell you how much concise is important. How many times I've heard the word say it with less, economy of words. I work as a leadership coach. I work with founders and I work with leaders at startups and big companies and CEOs all the time come to me. I'm the head of HR, head of learning. Hey, Iyad, help our leaders become better storytellers. Awesome. What did that mean to you? I'm not going to assume. Tell me what you think about storytelling. Well, when they tell us about a new project or proposal or something, they bring like a slide deck of 20 pages, 20 slides, and I don't have time for that. Just say it. Say exactly what you want, why you want it, and what is going to be the impact on the organization. One slide is enough. And people feel that one slide, that's not possible. I need at least three slides. One slide about this, the background, one slide about the options we have, and one slide about my recommendation, and one slide about questions and answers, and one slide. This is 2010, 2024. Time is precious, time is money, so that doesn't cut it anymore. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let's recap. The seven C's are the seven components of good storytelling. That doesn't mean that this is the model. There are models out there. All models are wrong. Some are useful, as somebody said. But what I'm trying to tell you here, don't be distracted by situational tips. Focus on the systematic components of good storytelling, of good human communication. These are tips you can use in your resume, cover letter, messages with the recruiters, in your job interview, in your conversation with your partner, in your day to day interactions. Nobody wants you to be boring and have a lot of mistakes when you talk and the filler words and and like and all that. Nobody wants you to be no one wants to listen to pretentious people, right? On YouTube or social media, people follow people who they think they are authentic in their messages, at least authentic in the way they define authentic, right? Which is surprising. What I find authentic, some people might not find authentic, and vice versa. But I want you to really focus on the message you're trying to focus on by creating a structure around your communication. And it's not black and white, it's not you have it or you don't have it. It's actually a spectrum. So today on clarity from 1 to 5, maybe I'm 4. Can you be a little bit more easy to understand? Yeah, I can be easier to understand, like by just not using American terms all the time. Try to be a little bit more universal, right? I used a couple words. If I can go back in time and review, next time I would use less of that, right? Clean. Maybe I said and ah all the time. Maybe I can use less filler words. Maybe I can be more enthusiastic, energetic, especially 5:30 in the morning when I woke up. This is 6:30 my time in California right now. Maybe I can be more engaging and customized to the audience. Maybe I would have asked who's here today and try to customize my message to the people. Maybe I can be more creative and stop being a copy of my past self and try to be creative by focusing on a future self. Creative doesn't mean only copying, not copying others, maybe also not copying yourself, right? Confident, just show up more. I'm 100% confident, say this is the truth and show some conviction here, right? Credible, so use some facts and figures. I could have started by telling you LinkedIn, for example, published this research, not coming up with something, but at least become more prepared with data and figures because people remember shocking facts, right? And concise also be use it use less. I finished in 30 minutes. I could have done it in 20 minutes, right? So always be in that mode of I can do better next time on these seven pillars. You become a master communicator. You become a master storyteller. Um, and I'll stop here. We still have 10 minutes. I'm gonna use it for questions and answers. I didn't want to have PowerPoints or a slide deck for today because you've seen hundreds of these before. Wanted one-on-one conversation with you. If you have any questions, and I'm sure you have, this is the time to ask. This is the time where I can give you more concise customized, clear and clean, more credible and confident, more creative response to your specific answer, specific question. So, all right, let's see here. What do we have? All right, so we have this question. You mentioned how we should tailor our CVs to each employer so it's personalized and specific. If we have minimal work experience and project, what would change if we tailor the CV to each employer since the content will mostly be the same? Okay, so great question. Thank you for asking. The question is, you have a CV, and I said customize your CV based on the job description, make it personalized. But if you don't have a lot to talk about, what are you going to personalize and customize? Great question. The answer is, um, since there are no similar job descriptions, no two identical job descriptions, there's no way you have two identical job description. The only could I can copy today this job description from this company and make it my company's job description for a specific position and still become still different because the name of the company is different. All right. So I want you to think about it. Different job descriptions, different CVs. Now the word different is not equal, right? If you're applying number one job, the number one job is, let's say, mechanical engineer, and this job is at an oil and gas company, okay? And you just graduated from a university. You have two internships. You don't have any full-time job experience, and you did a capstone project. You did a couple of classes online. You have some classes you took during your undergrad that you feel like they're relevant. All that, right? Great. You built your CV and resume, and we have a template on localized. Go and check out all the templates we have. Then you apply. Now you find another company, they have a mechanical engineering position, but it's not an oil and gas company. What do you do here? Here where you start to customize a little bit more. If you had a project or a class where you touch on touch upon basically the oil and gas, you mentioned that right off the bat. I'm a recruiter. I see mechanical engineer, intern, or early career candidate in oil and gas, and you put that the top. Somebody said, Abid, I think he said, a summary at the beginning or a profile. Yeah, this is probably how the minimum you can do to customize your resume. In the summary, in the profile, customize your resume. Say, I'm a recent grad looking for an internship in oil and gas as a mechanical engineering intern. You go to another company, I'm a recent grad looking for a mechanical engineering internship at a um, manufacturing organization, right? Something like um more like a specific to maybe like an automotive, like a Tesla or whatever, right? And then you customize based on the industry of the company or looking for something specific to that company. This is where your due diligence kicks in. This is how me as a recruiter, I as a recruiter, when I see that, I know you're customizing to get the job, but this is going to land in a positive way because I know that you're doing an extra job, not just randomly shooting your resume to different companies. Okay, so the summary section is actually a perfect place for customizing, even if you cannot see a lot of changes you can make on your resume if you're an early career professional. Same thing with your cover letter. Now, cover letters, people misunderstand what cover letters are. Big time. Cover letters are not a copy cover letter. Like this is not this is the place where you customize specifically to every single company. Cover letters are the email you send with your resume, right? If they're asking specifically for a cover letter, you build something specific to this company. Hi, Iyad. I'm applying because I saw this position. Perfect. Yes, why you're applying. and I see I'm a fit for these three reasons, and you're done. That's it. Don't, I'm a great fit and candidate. My job at this company helped me do this, and my job at this company helped me do that. This is a template. I'm not looking for that. Your resume is going to do that job. Your cover letter is telling me why you're interested in this company, why you're the fit for this position, right? Remember the word this, right? There are multiple ways to write cover letters. I personally prefer to start with present, what you're doing right now to make you a fit, the three reasons. What did you do in the past? What are you going to do in the future, right? Start with the present, go back to the past and move forward. You can start with the forward thinking. You can. And I think this is the second best. So you start saying, I'm applying because I would like to do this. We're aligned on the direction. What I did in the past is that, and today this is what I'm doing. So you're signaling the present moment because this is where you are right now in your career. Okay? All right. Should objective section be written on resumes for roles that require higher experience than junior? Should objective section be written in resumes for roles that require higher? There's no should, right? If there's a should, I would call them the C your resume, SEE, and you might double S double E, summary, skills, experience, education. So I'm gonna write in the chat. These are the core: summary, skills, experience, education. These are the core. Like other than that, I wouldn't say there's a core section, honestly. So when you say see your resume with double S double E, I'm referring to the core sections of a resume or a CV. Volunteering, leadership experience, certifications, achievements, extracurricular activities, objective, whatever that is, you can. This is what I call more. These are the more sections on your resume. But I would have not, I don't spend time on these. I go to the core, I leave the more section to the interview process because I want to get in. I want to get that call. Once I get the call, I can expand, right? But the core, I was like, what did you do? What did you learn? What can you do? Right? The kind of the skills, right? And why are you here? Which is the summary. So think about it this way, like if you are a recruiter, think like a hiring manager, think like a recruiter, and you want to hire someone. What do you want to know now? The minimum you would like to know, and you don't want to spend too much time on that, you know, want to know because you're gonna know later if they're the right fit. But you don't want to spend too much time because you want to go as many resumes as you can. What do you look for? The core, okay? You say, well, I just want to know if they can do the job. And if they can do the job and they want to do the job, and if they did it in the past, and how did they learn how to do it and where, so I can imagine the expandability of their skill set, jargon, the potential, right? So think about that. Cool. We have a space for one more question. All right. Can you elaborate on how to be creative? Do you mean we should make our resumes more visually appealing or use some creative writing or something else? Something else. What I mean by creative, great question too. What I mean by creative is not thinking about should. The more should is out of your vocabs, the more creative you are. Because when you say should, it means there are expectations. And when there are expectations, there are no creativity. Like with the word creativity, simply it means you're doing something out of your aspirations, out of your expression, not expectations. So when you say should, just just philosophizing things now, you are, I'm gonna do it because you asked me to do it, because this is what people are expecting me to do. But when I say creative, I'm looking for how you tell your own story. How do you usually tell a story? How do you usually talk about your experience, your education? If somebody asks you today, Uh, Tell me about yourself. How do you say it without all the noise around the world right now about how to tell your story? Think about it yourself. I just gave you a structure, I didn't give you a script. So think about, yeah, I need to be okay, of course, not should, but this is what how humans interact. Done. I know that. I have a structure. Now my intuition, my own story. How can I every time I tell my story, I tell it in a different way. That's creativity. And creativity doesn't mean loose. Of course, it's more constrained than people think. The most creative pianists in the world are the ones who understand exactly how piano works. Most creative artists, the most creative engineers, most creative coaches. The word creative is not only in arts, the arts, right? It's actually everywhere. We are born creative, we are told not to be. So think about creative is you meet this person who is a hiring manager at this company and they ask you, tell me about yourself. Why are you applying? What do you want from out of the job to get out of the job? And you really think, what am I'm trying to get here? I'm gonna use a structure. I'm gonna use the seven C's. I'm gonna use three bullets. I'm gonna say the what, the why, and the how. Just something to structure my thinking and my message, but everything else is mine in the context of that job, right? So that's creativity. All right, we're 45 minutes in. Um, Please join the next session. The next session is going to be about advancing project management excellence in Africa, insights and strategies by PMI, Project Management Institute. Yeah, good luck. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We have sessions every week at Localize. So if we're going to dig deeper into each of what I talked about today. We have a session actually in an hour and 45 and 15 minutes. And pretty much every Tuesday, we've been doing this for years. Join my sessions on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. California. Right now it's 6:45, doing the math. And thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for tuning in. And in the chat, if you write one word that describes your feeling or your learning or an action you're gonna take, that would be awesome. So you can uh, crystallize your learning. Thank you so much again. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.